Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 13 of Quattroporte, the review series, as the name suggests, for the four-door super saloons and also sports saloons that are featured on the lineup of Gran Turismo 6. And in this episode we're featuring, from what I've seen, a severely underappreciated car. Now it's a Jaguar, of course. It's the S-Type R model. It's one of two Jaguar saloons that are on the game, this and of course the XFR. They are both non-premium models. The S-Type has also been on the Gran Turismo series, or in the Gran Turismo series, for considerably longer than the XFR. It's been on since around Gran Turismo 4, if not older, I can't recall at the moment, but I'm pretty sure it was introduced on GT4. What then does it have to offer? Because if the community in general kind of doesn't appreciate the car, is that a gauge of how good the car could be? Well, as we've proven in other series in the past, including my Dark series, no, that's just not the case. Because I'm sure there are some people who would disagree with this, but from what I've seen, the Gran Turismo community, and by extension the racing community in general, not just on Gran Turismo, doesn't have very much imagination. There are pockets or individuals of people who do appreciate cars, regardless of whether the crowd uses them or not. And those people are rewarded for looking for cars which everyone doesn't use. But in general, people tend to stick to the same cars. They see someone using a car, they think, oh, that was a good one, so I'll use it. And then that just grows exponentially to the point where everyone uses the same old cars for the same old things. Huayras and TZ3s, for instance, on Special Stage Route X, Tomicara ZZ2s and Nissan GTRs around the track, etc, etc. Now that's kind of a good and a bad thing. It's a bad thing for the people who don't think about using different cars because it means that they lose out on potentially brilliant vehicles. It's a good thing though for the rest of us who do put the time and effort into looking into these underappreciated models, because we bear the fruit of that labour, which is genuinely competitive alternative models that you don't get bored of anywhere near as quickly because you don't see every Tom, Dick and Harry using it. The S-Type is one of those models. I would say it's one of the strongest large saloons in the game in terms of its all-round ability. Now, it's not class-leading in any particular way. It's very good, though, in pretty much every way. Its power, for instance, it's not the highest of the saloons in the game at 694 horsepower, but it's more than enough. The torque is also not the highest, but is a surprisingly high 684 pound-feet, which is highly unusual for a saloon to have that's not made in America. Usually it's only American cars that tend to have very similar power and torque figures, so that again makes this car relatively unique. It's also lighter than it looks, at 1,340 kilos, so it's no featherweight, but it's lighter than you'd expect a big Jaguar to be. The engine is perhaps a little bit smaller than you might think, at 4.2 litres. It's a supercharged engine, and fairly obviously it's rear-wheel drive. Despite, though, not having the biggest of power or the lightest of weight, or being a premium model, it's still not a slow car, or a bad car by any means. It can do around 245 miles per hour when fully tuned, under its own power without NOS or slipstream, so it's certainly not slow. Not necessarily the quickest, but not slow either. And let's face it, that's more than enough for most tracks. It has pretty strong acceleration. The handling is surprisingly good, partially due to the fact that it does, as I said, weigh less than it looks, but also because it's a relatively old-fashioned style of performance car in the way that it drives on the game. You get the impression from the car that it's all very mechanical, very old school, rather than electronics and fancy aids helping the driver. It's a driving machine. Now, I'm not sure if that's just the game giving you that impression, because I've never driven the car in real life, but that's certainly the impression that the game gives, and I would say the car is better off for it. Now, as you'd expect from a Jag, it's not cheap. It's a 92 grand car, but that is still cheaper than many of the other super saloons in its category. So, as I said, it's not class leading, It's not the fastest, it's not the most powerful, it's not even the lightest, and it's certainly not the cheapest. But all round, it's a very good car. And it's a very good car that hardly anyone, from what I've seen, actually takes the time to tune and use, or even buy, for that matter. Now, you probably conclude from all this that I'm quite a fan of the car. Well, not really. I'm not really into Jaguar that much, and the S-Type is probably my least favourite model on the game. But the facts are the facts, and the facts are that this car is underappreciated and very good. In fact, it's almost a sleeper car. Now, I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say that it is a sleeper car, because it's not that understated visually. I mean, it's a Jag. People notice it. But it is a sleeper because people don't expect it to be as good all round as it actually is. So I'd recommend trying out this car at least once. And that's it for this episode. So I'll see you guys next time. And as always, thanks for watching.